Thanks for making the time to do this.
I'm excited to be here, man.
When was the last time you did an interview, man?
Last time I did an interview
It wasn't when
towards the
NFL
end
days.
of oh,
Wasn't
no, it wasn't
what?
NFL days. This was
No.
like end of last year. I did an interview over the phone. Somebody
Yeah.
reached out to me through Facebook,
Oh,
and
nice.
he had a podcast. And
I was listening to some of your older interviews when NFL days, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, man, I know Jelani, and I feel like he was so they kept you in a wormhole of like or in your lane, just talking about football. So it's
Yeah,
been cool to be able to get to know you like in a broader way.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because back then that was like my true reality was that wormhole,
Yeah.
and I think you've caught me 2 years out the league as I've seen the rest of the world and I've grown in just different ways. And so
Yeah.
the interview is going to sound a lot different than how it was when I was wearing the Dolphins and Texans jersey.
It's
and
cool.
all that,
It like made me smile. But and you were a little yoked.
but-
I mean, you're
Yeah,
strong
yeah,
now,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you had a little more. You were a linebacker for
Yeah.
the Dolphins, right? And then did
Yeah.
you end with the Raiders?
I ended with the Texans technically, but my last year started with the Raiders. So played 4 years with Miami and then went to the Raiders, did the whole off season with them, training camp, and then ended up not making that team. Then like week 4, week 5, ended up with the Texans. Finished the year off with the Texans, and that was my fifth and last year.
Were you when you first got to the NFL? Were you kind of like? Because I grew up always wanted to be in the NBA, so it's easy to be like, oh, once you get there, and I'm sure it was the same for you with the NFL.
Mhm.
When you were there, was it like a pinch me kind of feel, or was it like kind of like a natural progression? It was just like, oh, I'm here, it's normal.
It was always a part of the plan. It was always the goal, and I was taught at a young age like the power of your mind and the power of visualization. So I saw the dream in reality. So it wasn't like a pinch me, is this real?
Yeah.
Because I knew it was real. But at the same time, I was so in the zone of it that I don't even think I recognized what was happening. I just knew that I needed to get better and better every single day and make the next play. And that,
Did you like celebrate the day you got drafted or anything like that?
yeah, I did. So I actually was on the third day of the draft. So I had like a really dramatic
Oh man.
couple of days because, I had gotten injured my last season with the Gators. And so,
In Florida, yeah.
yeah, and I actually left early. And so there was some
Dang.
tension, a little bit of tension, just in this, a little bit of contrast, just because, I had some coaches who wanted me to come back and play who were saying you may end up being a free agent because of your lack of production this year because you kept getting injured and all these different things. So I had to really trust in myself to be able to go into the draft and risk losing my eligibility. And if I don't make it, then I'm not where I'm supposed to be in my head.
Man.
So I was able to
It's a
go
head
in.
trip.
Yeah. So the draft day came and I was a third day guy, but I was like the sixth pick of that third day, fourth rounder. But those first and second days, I still had people over, and so you're sitting there waiting for your name, and so that
Man.
tension is just building up and building up.
Man.
And doubt starts to creep in, but then excitement creeps in as well. You see other people that you know that you
Yeah.
play with going, and it's a pretty nerve wracking.
How'd your rookie year go? I can imagine because I actually don't know, but like I can imagine dealing with. I deal with now. I'm now getting into like situations where in the past I would have looked at that and be like, dang, you're really doing it, Max. But now I'm here. One common thing that I guess I know a lot of people that are starting to reach new levels deal with is like imposter syndrome. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Like that's something that I work on. Did you have that at all in the NFL? Like feeling as if like, am I good enough? People are gonna soon like, I don't belong. When good things happen, it's so easy
Yeah.
for us to feel like we don't deserve it.
Yeah, no, that is definitely a feeling, and I think that doubt creeps in for everybody, and that thought creeps in for everybody, and there's the difference between people who are able to be truly successful, the ones that know how to deal with it and keep it hushed as much as possible, or at least not let it stop them from taking the next step.
Yeah.
Because you can have those fears, but when you're able to really see that it's really to drive you and point you in a direction to get over it and past it and grow from it, then it becomes um, it becomes something that actually pushes you. So I've had those doubts, but I'm thankful and blessed to have like a family that like really taught me at a young age the power of affirming greatness in your mind, and so I always had the tools when I had those doubts
Mm.
to be able to snap out of it
Mm.
and keep it moving and say like, no, I not only do I belong here, but I am the best here. And even if the stats or nothing showed that I wasn't starting completely yet my rookie year, but you still have to
Mm.
speak what you want into existence. And so I was able to really practice that and hone in on that in my career. Just got better and better from there.
So you've told me that in the past it was your dad that kind of implanted that in your mind early
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
what did that look? You said you had the tools. What's that look like? How do you get?
So
How does one get through? I'm like being super selfish.
I feel you.
Tell me all the secrets. What is one? How do you get through imposter syndrome with something like speaking yourself up and talking better about yourself? Like, how did that actually look?
Yeah,
Or I guess how did it look at an early age, and then how did that translate to the Dolphins or
yeah.
the NFL
At an
career?
early age, I had issues with confidence. If I When I think back, there were times before I really started playing football and getting really into it where I felt like, um, I don't know. I don't know if it was confidence or I just didn't.
Yeah.
I was shy, so I didn't.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, like in terms of like conflict, I wasn't really like trying to push too many buttons. I was really cool with just being, not seen as much and really helping my friends out. And so going into football was when I really started getting a lot of coaching mentally and spiritually and physically from my father and just my family. He's a big component of affirmations. And so he would teach me this affirmation at a young age called, and we would repeat it in the car before I head to the games. It was God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. And where there's God, there's no imperfection.
Mm.
And we would repeat that.
Mm.
God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. Where there's God, there's no imperfection. And it's an affirmation that stayed with me throughout my entire life, throughout my career till this day. It's something that I still speak. Before a big test in college, I would say it over and over again. The first thing that I would do when I would run out of the tunnels of all my games would be to go to the sideline and say a prayer and then like repeat that affirmation before I go up
Mm.
and get to playing. And so just having tools to, one, be self-aware when those thoughts come, to understand that this is, sort of a lower level, maybe ego's part of you that is trying to protect you, speaking these things to try to keep you in a comfort zone, and having the tools to be able to shift that narrative and shift that story
Mm.
with those affirmations. And I can go into depth about more and more of what I was taught at a younger age of like that helped me to see myself as um, always a step above my competition. But
Mm.
it was all just training of the mind.
Mm. I love that affirmation, and that's one. If I were to like encapsulate all the different affirmations, I try to use that one. Kind of puts it all together pretty well.
Yeah.
And there's something comforting and and the ending of it. It's God is perfect, is it, or something of that nature?
Where there's God, like there is
There is
no
no
imperfection.
imperfections, and
Yeah.
that's something I try to remind myself. Whatever the word is, it's like God, nature.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no mistakes, and everything's kind of going well. So that alone just reframes like whatever you think might happen, whatever you think could go wrong,
Yeah.
it's not wrong.
Right,
It's all right.
In hindsight, it makes sense.
You talked about the ego real fast, and I was like, oh, nice. How do you kind of identify when the ego pops up and when like it's something you're feeling maybe pregame or even now in your life when nerves or something happens that you want to deem as like negative?
Mhm.
How do you know that that's the ego trying to keep you safe and small? Because like the nature of the ego, as I've been learning, is to kind of keep you defined in whatever you define yourself as. So if you define yourself as, a mediocre I'm talking to myself, a mediocre basketball player, anything that pushes you to stretch yourself, your ego is going to be kind of tested, and all those insecurities are often your ego
Yeah.
getting scared of getting knocked off what it believes to be true.
Right.
How do you kind of like catch that?
That's a good question. I mean, it's something that I still
Yeah.
it's a journey for life, you know. I
Yeah.
read this book called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. It
Oh, I
was
haven't read that
phenomenal.
one. I have it on
It
my
really
shelf.
put
I gotta
into a
read
lot
it.
of. Say that again.
I got it on my shelf, but I gotta read it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't read
yeah.
it yet.
It's a powerful book, but it really taught me in a lot of ways how ego
Hmm.
has showed up in my life without me even realizing it. And the way I see it, it's the ego, like you said. I feel like in a lot of ways it's meant to sort of protect us and kind of keep us in that comfort zone, like keep us comfortable. Whenever we start to
Yeah.
stretch out of that bubble, that's when you start to hear the doubt. And it's not a bad thing. It's not something that we want to like get rid of, but we just need to understand the importance of um, that that intuition, that higher voice. If there was a higher voice that is able to look at that ego and understand where it's coming from and not let it stop you from pushing past the comfort zone.
Mm.
And so how you
Mm.
recognize when it's coming, a lot of times it sounds like fear and it sounds like worry, it sounds like concern, it sounds like a voice that's trying to just hold you in that comfortable place. And it takes time and it takes work, and I think everyone has a sort of different voice, or it may look different, but the more that we practice things like meditation, the more that we practice really getting in tune with ourself and our thoughts and really reflect on why am I thinking that? Why am I seeing it that way? The more we
Mm.
get into that practice of reflection, the more we're able to see, okay, I see why this voice is happening. I see why this voice is continuing to come in my mind, and this is what is, once I really dissect this and I get past it, there are a lot of gifts on the other side of that doubt and that concern and that worry that we bring to
Mm.
that comes into our mind.
That's it's sick that you've developed that ability to kind of see yourself as more than whatever you are at that moment
Mm.
at such a young age.
Yeah,
That's something I'm like still working on. It's like to be able to practice that, and the fact that you were kind of using those affirmations at such a young age, and
I
learning to observe your feelings and emotions. That alone is like high level becoming mindful, becoming conscious, and the
yeah,
fact that you're able to like utilize that to get to the NFL, to get over the nerves of entering the NFL and all that is
yeah.
like pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I'm really truly blessed and thankful to have been raised the way I was. I wouldn't be here today without that sort of mental conditioning and training. Now I will say, when it came to like real like meditation and really being self-aware of the thoughts that are holding me back, I wouldn't say I still haven't mastered that, and I wouldn't say that I was anywhere near as I am today. I think when I left the league, I had a lot of time to really reflect on my life, and it wasn't until I left where I really, really, really dug deep and understood, like, oh snap, I've been like trained like from a kid
Mm.
to think this way.
Mm.
I don't think when I was in the league I really understood, because it was
Uh,
just
it's just what you were
it was
doing.
just what I was doing.
Wow.
But it wasn't until I left to reflect and be like, oh, that started as a kid when my dad would have me watching these Muhammad Ali videos all the
Mm.
time. Oh, that started as a kid when my dad would put paintings of Hall of Famers all over my room so that I see myself as a Hall of Famer. Like,
Mm.
that started as a kid when my dad would teach me these affirmations, and
Man.
that's when I was able to like reflect on, oh, these are tools
Man,
that
I
I
just got the
was.
chills. My
Yeah.
dad used to send me quotes, and I legit never think about this before basketball games, before I was into all this stuff, and just really powerful. And my dad's not like a spiritual mindset guy, but
Mhm.
he's not well with words, so he would just text me something
Mhm.
because he wasn't so good at like the pump up talks.
Mhm.
But it's crazy to think of how like that has formed kind of the way I view like a really like if I'm going through a tough time, something that helps me a lot is like just a beautifully written quote about
Yeah.
something I'm going through.
That's
And it's
awesome.
crazy how, a parent can implant these things and you can go about whatever your life is and then kind of look back and be like, "Oh, that was that." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Only with time with reflection can you realize that like all the things that you were doing right and all the things that worked it wasn't like normal. You might have thought
Yeah.
all your mindfulness, all your affirmational stuff was just like that's how it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And then the more people you meet that aren't thinking the same way of you, you're figuring out like why is that.
Yeah.
And it it really hit me also once I left the league because I saw other guys that had left the league, and I saw that there were a lot of people who had the money, who had gotten to their dreams of making it to the league, making it to the NFL, and once they left, they felt empty. They felt they were still unhappy. They were still depressed. They had money in their pocket, or people even who were still sitting in those locker rooms, being around them and seeing how they are medicating all kind of ways just to get through, and I realized I wasn't feeling the same kind of pain, and I had to reflect and realize why, because I always saw football as just as a vessel, as an avenue to be able to do something way bigger afterwards, and to do something way bigger because of that platform. And so,
And you knew that kind of while you were playing
yeah, I knew that
to an
as a
extent.
child that
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to make it to the NFL for something,
Do you
not.
know what that something is?
Yeah, yeah. So actually, when I was in middle school, I had an assignment by one of my favorite teachers. He passed away, but he was an incredible teacher. And every year we would do this assignment called Dreams and Goals, and he would make us write out our dreams, our goals, and how we planned on getting there. And the most important aspect of the assignment was the why of it. And so we had to really explain why we wanted to get there. We had to really explain like, and it couldn't be a superficial reason like money or for fame or something like that. Like he would continue to push the why, the why, the why, the
Yeah.
why. And so when I was a young age, I always had that I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wanted to play football. Um, and my why every year was I wanted to be able to use that influence to be able to bring people closer to God. And so I grew up in a very like spiritual, religious Christian family. And so at that time, I wanted to be able to bring people closer to God through that influence,
Wow.
being an athlete. So I knew at a young age that football was always going to be
It was like a
the
stepping stone.
avenue, yeah, to get there.
And we talked about this at like lunch the other day. What is your why now?
My why now,
How would you articulate it now as an adult?
as an adult, I would articulate it as just being able to really bring people to, and to be able to guide people to a place of conviction that they cannot be stopped. Just to guide people to a place of conviction that they have the power to create the life that they want to live. And ultimately, my passion is around like athletes and sports, but in totality, it's because I know how much influence athletes and sports has on the general public. And so ultimately, I would want everybody in the world to recognize the power that they have within to be able to create the life that they want, and to help give them the tools to be able to do that. And so I think just my biggest why is that I want to help people to be free, and to understand the power that they have inside of them.
What is the opposite of that? Like, what have you noticed in the sports world? We can talk about that specifically. Like, you were in the NFL. You have a better look at this than anybody. What does this look like when people don't know their power, when people don't have the tools? Like,
Yeah.
what's on the other side of the coin? Because
It looks,
and it doesn't have to be like this bleak, super bad, but I think
yeah,
that's where a lot of people are. That's where I was.
right. I think it looks a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
One of the ways is through the just being sort of feeling less empowered. I mean, less empowered by feeling like just the goals that people want to achieve are not like okay, so let me put it this way.
Yeah.
All of the distractions that are happening in the world, just through politics and all these different things, a lot of people can take those things, or take situations where they feel like they aren't in control of, and allow it to just suppress them from even trying. Or, you know, when I think of football and I think of guys that leave, or sports in general, not just football, basketball, any type of sport, there's a certain identity that has been crafted for so long as an athlete, and everyone is looking at you this particular way and talking to you in this particular way, and you know, the bigger you get as an athlete, I mean, you get a lot of followers. You got people that are fans of you and what you're able to do on the court, on the field, and then when that gets taken away, not knowing who you are, never even going through the process of figuring out who you are in your multi-dimensional being, who you are as a complete human.
Yeah.
It's not just, that's just one aspect of you. And so what I think the other side of it looks like is just, it can feel fragmented. It can feel like the feeling of being lost. It can feel like,
yeah,
a lot of it looks a lot of different ways, but it ends up playing out in mental illness.
Yeah, it's like this. It's like a not grounded state. It's like things can knock you off easier. You don't know where you're going so much. Like if something externally changes, like you're not playing football or basketball or whatever it is anymore, you're like, oh shit, now what? Where I feel like I work hard now at a point to be self-aware, to know that if anything went wrong in my life or something dramatically changed, like there'd still be pain and all that.
Right.
And you'd still you'd still go through the range of emotions, but at the end of it, I would still be like, all right, like I know I'm good. Mm-hmm. I know who I am at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And I think that's cool to hear you talk about. That's a part of your why, is like implementing that into a field of sports. And, like I'm passionate about that too, is like making sure these people have these tools and this kind of self-awareness and like this holistic, spiritual, almost like I know who I am sense before they need to transition and all these things. Like,
yeah.
Do you think you had that while you were playing? Did you you had a pretty good sense? So when you transitioned out of the sport, you didn't kind of have that, I call it the dark night of the soul, as people would call it, like that, because, man, I went through it. That's why I had a brand called Mind Body Hoops, because I transitioned out of basketball and I was depressed, and I turned to things like personal development and read Buddhism books and meditated, and then I was like, oh shit, man, like I feel better. I know I'm starting to learn who I am, and why wasn't this available to me when I was an athlete? This could help me with all the athlete shit I was going through too, let alone the transition out. So I mean, but you're rare, man. You didn't go through the identity crisis as much.
You know what? Yeah, I think it probably looked a bit different. I think one of the things that I did struggle with when I first left the NFL was I think I took the opposite approach, and I kind of ran away from that identity a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was so eager to like spread my wings and see. It felt like
you're being set free.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like I was in a box, and it felt like once I peeked my head out of that, I saw the whole world, man. Plato's cave.
Man, and I could totally see that.
Yeah, and so.
But did it ever come back and catch you? Like.
Yeah. Like, so the more I started to branch my wings and show multiple sides of myself, like I started dabbling in the film, and I started learning music. I started learning all these different parts of me, and started recapturing passions that I had as a child, like drawing and just the artistic areas. And I started to get really excited about it. But I feel like a part of me was really shunning the sports aspect of me because of a lot of different reasons, like, just the injuries that it caused, and just politics, things that I experienced towards the end of my time in the NFL. And I took the opposite approach of really running away from that identity and showing it more than an athlete. And I think that I could only go so far doing that. And so over time, probably in the last year or so, I've learned how to integrate it all into one and find a way to completely shine the entire light. Like, you are an athlete as well as all these other things. Don't just turn that off just to that's ego right there. That's ego, I feel like, is the feeling of wanting to prove something in a bunch of other ways.
Yeah, like I'm not a football player now, but now I'm an artist. Now I'm doing all these other cool things. It's like that's coming from an ego place a little bit. Yeah. Even though you're like you're totally right to be dabbling in your new or like rekindling hobbies and like retouching it with your creativity and feeling that part of you come up again.
Yeah.
But totally, I did the same exact thing. It was like my career kind of ended like not clean. I definitely didn't honor where I came from. I just like was like, time to go be a college kid, time to go like have fun, time to go have friends for once, like time to go learn, time to go do all these things. And then running away only lasted for like 4 months, and then boom, like then it's like, okay, I'm here, I'm settled into this new life now. And that kind of transition definitely like faded, and I found myself kind of in that depressive state. So I think now we got to talk about like what's it look like blended the two. So what's it look like to not run away? Like, let's talk about transitioning out of a sport, or I think anybody can apply this to whatever, like transitioning out of something, whether it be a job or a relationship or a sport. You're so invested in that thing and what it means to you and what it means about your identity and how other people view you. So when you shift, not only are you shifting and how that can be difficult for like the own personal journey, but like the ego throws on to what's this mean about me in relation to others? What's this mean about my identity? How are people going to view me now that I'm drawing and doing film? So I don't know. What is the healthy way to transition, you know? From anything in life. There's no perfect answer. But I would say I wish you and I both and every athlete would, as they're still playing, give themselves time to still dabble in those things like the arts.
Right. Wow.
Because like I think there's such an overlay between athletes, and then when they're done, they like somehow dip into the arts, whether that be music or like for me and you too, like film stuff. And that was a childhood, and I think that's because so many kids naturally like express themselves through some sort of art. And then we kind of through the school system and like what's acceptable, you put into more of like that masculine, like only achieve through school, like get your doctorate or play sports, Right. It's like you're in that masculine where the arts are kind of the feminine energy. And if I think if athletes can have a little blend of the two while they're still, crushing it, they might be more like mindful and holistic, and it might actually help them play in a better, more. What do you think?
Especially in this day and age with everyone having social media and being able to tell a story through that different mediums. But now I think the best ways to transition from career to career, from moment to moment, is being able to. I think the biggest thing is having a big enough why that transitions or that translates to everything that you do. If you have a big enough purpose, you can find motivation to be able to do. You'll be able to get there in a lot of different ways. It doesn't relate to just one specific industry. So, for example, like the why that I had as a child was to bring people closer to God, or use influence to bring people closer to God. Like that, once I'm done playing sports, I still am able to go and take a job somewhere or creatively want to tell stories that does it. And so having a why that's just big enough is that
transcends your career.
That transcends your career, exactly. And also just come. Got to get the snaps.
Yeah.
And also just just really coming into contact with your values and just really fine-tuning values, fine-tuning the things that make you grateful, waking up with gratitude, like just incorporating gratitude in your day-to-day life.
How does one incorporate these things? Like, what are some tangibles? Because like now I'm like, okay, this is good. I'm gonna like literally after this conversation get clear about my why, something that transcends like not only why am I doing this project, this career path, but like what is the actual overarching why that will last me for a much longer time, no matter what. I could be like dancing, like why, what is it that I'm trying to bring? So I love that. How do people start implementing like the why? I think is, you can just really get clear and take some reflection and be like, what's my why? But what about like values? You said like getting clear on your values. What does that look like? Like, if you had like a, someone, you're coaching someone, what would you
Yeah.
say to them? And then like, how do they start implementing something like gratitude, which can
Yeah.
seem so easy, but when I wake up, I'm like, gratitude, come on, do it. And
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
can be hard.
Yeah, no, for sure. It could definitely be difficult. But I really like to journal. I like to just put pen to paper and write things out. I know for gratitude, one of the things that really helped me out was making like a gratitude list. So I took an hour or so to like meditate and clear my mind and really came into it with the intention of figuring out all the things that I'm grateful for from a child till now. And that list got extensive, but it's a list that I can always go to and I still add to it. And it's something that I can always go to be able to, if there is a point where, when we're in those tougher situations, we're so like closed minded to where it feels like this situation is the whole world. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times we can't even think in that moment of what is there to be grateful for right now? What is there to be grateful for right now? That list really helps me when it is difficult for me to think about it in the moment and gather those feelings of gratitude. I always have a list that I can go to really reflect on. Another thing that I do is every single day around the afternoon or so, usually after I spend the first part of my day like working and getting towards my goals, I take like a 10 to 15 minute gratitude walk, I call it, where I'm just put on some like music. Either a lot of times it's like meditation music, just a certain frequencies, and I just spend time in nature, just kind of walk around. It may sound a little weird, but
No.
I'm thankful for the trees. I'm thankful for the sky. Like I just find different things that I'm grateful for, and I really reflect on the abundance of the world around us. And a lot of times that that experience it one, it solidifies all of the the good things that happen in the beginning of the day, and then it pushes me towards the end of the day to finish off even stronger. um,
I
and
love
then
that.
of course meditating at the end of the day. So over practice, over time, it sort of structured my mind to always see the gratitude in every moment. And so, for example, I was with you, I think last week, and I got that ticket from the cops on the way to seeing you. And, it was something that I just had to go to the DMV to get it corrected. And so I was in the DMV, and I remember when I had to book the appointment, it was just so difficult, and they made
Yeah.
it difficult. But I finally got there, and that morning, I really decided to look at it a different way, and I started to find like how great of an opportunity it is to like get work done while I'm sitting there waiting, knowing the DMV is going to take forever. Pretty much taking that experience and finding the gratitude in it, I was able to get a lot of work done while sitting down waiting for my appointment. And it
Man.
ended up working out completely fine, and that ended up being a great day.
Yeah.
But it's just learning how to like train your mind and train your habits, train your system to believe and think in like a championship way. And there's tools of doing it, and a lot of it just comes with like consistency, practice, and habits, and building a system, like building yourself like a computer, really.
Yeah. So many people could go into the DMV and just be like,
Yeah,
and then like spend 2 hours on social media.
yeah,
But if you're able to like be like, where's the good in this? Oh,
mhm,
I have 2 hours of free time. What can I do in that 2 hours of free time? Oh,
yeah.
those things I've been putting off. And then it becomes, oh, the DMV was this beautiful container that allowed me to get some
Oh, it's
stuff
so
done that I wouldn't have
beautiful.
wanted to do.
Think about all the traffic in LA of
Man.
like starting to realize like
Yeah.
this is so amazing because I get a chance to like really meditate in this traffic. You know what I mean? I get
Man.
a chance to like really
Really
just
practice.
take my deep breaths and practice.
And to be able to like look for that, I think that's the challenge. Be like, when in my day am I being offered the opportunity to like look for, how is this a good thing? How can I be grateful for this? There's so
Yeah.
many good things that you just said, like that list, that lifelong list of gratitude and just things that have gone right. I've tried to do something similar on like a monthly basis. I didn't keep up with it for long enough, but I
Mhm.
remember like I would call it blessings, and I would like write everything that small or big, that happened that month that was just I could deem as a blessing. And at the end of the month, I'd be like, dude, it's no matter what mood you're in, if you ever look at this list, it's undeniable that like you are living a great life. You're taken care of. Like things are going well.
That's incredible.
And like that practice alone, I'm so inspired by, man. Like I'm definitely going to apply that more.
That's awesome.
The walk in the nature reminds me of like Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you're familiar, but he would just.
I love Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, man. The way he puts it that I resonate with is just like go walk in nature and just you're reminded things are perfect, and like whatever you're going through, it's perfect. Like and so if you can just be reminded by that by something as simple as the trees or the clouds or whatever.
100%.
Man,
we have everything that we need.
Man, and then the DMV. So. Is it just kind of, reframing things as much as you can and just asking yourself, like, how is this perfect?
Yeah.
It's like it reminds me of we were talking about before, last thing, and I'll stop rambling. Yeah. We were talking about, like, the dog is, like, training your mind. And in training your mind, you're training it to, like, hey, sit. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to sit in stillness, it's kind of like training a dog to just sit still. And if you don't train your mind, it's kind of like the dog's going to go crazy and rip up the furniture.
Right.
And what you just said made me think of that again because it's like my roommates, if they start eating an apple, my dog is like trained to the second they hear the crunch of the apple, he comes and sits and looks all cute because he knows he might get a bite of that apple. Right. And so you've trained yourself, man, in practicing gratitude, in making good out of, DMV experiences.
Yeah.
You've trained yourself that when something's kind of like wonky or traffic, you've trained your mental dog to be like, what's good? What's good? Yeah. And that's a powerful thing, man. Your dog is sharp.
I was doing a lot of research earlier this year, and I remember running across a term RAS. You ever heard of just RAS? The reticular articulating system. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the reticular activating system.
Reticular activating system.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna sound like a high-level scientist when I explain this.
You sound pretty scientific,
but pretty much, our minds filter out a lot of the information that it deems not necessary for that moment and what we need. And so, when we think about, like, I've been looking for a new vehicle and I've been looking to transfer into Audis. And so once I started talking about the fact that I'm going to look and see what Audis are, I started seeing Audis everywhere. And it's not like they weren't there at first, but my reticular activating system was shutting it out. It didn't deem it necessary. And so I say that because we can consciously train our RAS. I mean, we can consciously train our minds through the habits that we consciously set for ourselves to see what it is that we want to see. Our mind will literally shut out the things that don't align with that. So when we put our purpose and we keep our vision and our focus on our purpose, on the things that we want, our mind literally shuts out the things that aren't necessary to it. And you start to see all of the opportunities that help you get to where you want to go. And so when it comes to gratitude, when it comes to when it comes to the opposite of limiting beliefs, like training that into your mind to see it that way becomes a lot easier over time through consistency and through building those habits. And so I think that's what really helps it to be more second nature for me now, is actively training it, like writing down on your schedule, having a morning routine to where you're actively training your mind, your body, and your spirit to align in the best possible way to get you to your goals and where you want to go. And it's still something that I still sometimes struggle with, and there's times when it's more natural, but there's always going to be ups and downs, and I definitely don't have it figured out yet. But training is something that I've learned through football. Consistency builds muscle.
I think that's why athletes have such a good chance to, like, really transcend and, like, be in a whole different space in terms of, like, this train your mind and mindfulness stuff. Like, because they have once they know the benefit of something, athletes have embedded in them that, like, if I practice this enough, I'll get really good at it. Yeah. And, like, if I practice this for a year, and do it really like with a lot of intention and intensity, in a year, this move that I think is pretty difficult will become a part of my arsenal.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've put in so much time and hours into like certain mindset practices that even when it gets hard, you can still have these things that you rely on. Like even though some athlete, you get super exhausted, you still have certain moves that no matter how tired you are, you have these in your bag.
Yeah.
You have these things like,
For sure.
these are solid.
For
And I think
sure.
that's that mindset of knowing how to implement like new aspects of yourself is like a key thing that thinks that it comes intuitive to athletes. So
Yeah.
there's so much room to implement mindset practices.
Yeah, that's good to know. I always like hearing other people's perspective on that because I won't realize that it's more intuitive for me to build those habits because of what I've been doing as an athlete.
Oh man,
I
yeah.
won't realize like
And what you were saying about scheduling,
Yeah.
I need to gain 5 pounds this summer, whatever it is. Here's my workout routine that will get me there. Here's what I'll eat. Like that mindset is such a high level athlete thing to do.
Really.
Yeah, man. And I have friends because I have plenty of friends and people that are not athletes, and I'm like, dude, just like, and the way you think and that structure and that scheduling and that planning is something that comes with being a super fucking busy athlete.
Yeah.
Too much going on, like so much. So you have to be diligent with your time, how you're spending it,
Yeah.
which aspects of yourself you're investing in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a means of like not knowing how to implement it for athletes. It's just like, it's getting your foot in the water and tasting it, like what
Yeah.
it can be like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
I feel like to that point, I feel like when I first got out of the NFL, I actually struggled a bit with. It was the first time I didn't have a schedule made
man.
for me.
Yeah, that's tough.
It was like the first time where I had all that freedom. I had 24 hours to be able to do what I want, and I had all these different interests and things that were oozing out of me to be able to explore. So I remember that first year, it was tough for me to actually get focused on one particular thing, and
Me
I
too.
found my energy dispersed in so many different ways, and I was getting good at film. I was also learning how to play the keyboard, and I was also learning other aspects of myself. And I didn't feel like I was getting great at any one thing because I was so dispersed.
Yeah.
And so it took time to realize. It actually took time for me to go back and think of what has helped me out in the past. And even though I wasn't making those schedules of this is when we have to, like, okay, for example, if we had like a 5-day week to prepare for a team, each day would be a theme. So it would be like Monday would be first and second down. The next day would be third down. The next day would be like, I don't know, cleaning up the rest of the day and like special teams. So they were like theme days. And so I had to go back and think of like, okay, there was a method to scheduling and having themes of a day and having structure so that you're able to. It was good for us to be able to show up and just kind of be in flow and not have to worry about decision fatigue and be able to just move in the direction that we're supposed to. So it wasn't until maybe like that second year when I got out the league that I started really implementing like scheduling and planning out so that I can wake up and just go.
Yeah, that's I think that's something that's common with the transition out of sports too, is like not having that that so much free time can like mess up your brain a little bit, and like what am I doing with myself? And that's where for me a lot of like the identity crisis came, was like I had 4 extra hours in the day, like what am I doing with it now?
Yeah.
So but to this day I have purpose and I have direction, and I'm way beyond that now, but still dealing with that, trying to limit decision fatigue and trying to limit distractions and being able to just allow myself to show up and like you said perfectly, just drop into like a flow state and not have to worry about, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing too many little things? Like I want to be doing like a couple big things with all I got.
Right.
Do you have any gifts you could give me in terms of like how you go about scheduling and getting clarity on making sure you're doing like what's most important now that you've transitioned out, but still maintaining that like NFL like kind of intensity and structure?
I'm very new at fine tuning that. I would say going into 2020 is the most clear that I've ever been, and so I'm right there with you. And I think what I've begun to do, especially like towards December when I really started implementing these tools, is I've really like just fine tune all of my interests and just prioritize like one or two things, one or two skills that I wanted to master. Um, before I did any of that, I did like a goal list of like my 5 year goal, my 2 year goal, 1 year goal, what that looks like, and sort of reverse engineer to see like, okay, this is what I want to have accomplished by then. This is what I want to have accomplished by the second year. What I want to have accomplished by the first year, and then really went into detail in the first year of like quarterly what would be optimal to get to where I need to go get to by the end of the year. And so when I did that, I was able to really hone in on okay, these are the things I have to prioritize. And if I want to master something, I have to, just like I mastered the art of playing linebacker, I have to really get focused on skills that I need to master that will help me get to where I need to go. And so I think from incorporating your why you're doing your purpose and finding that passion in that, and really being clear about your target, like your goal, where you want to go, and sort of reverse engineering that process and being clear about what the mini goals that'll get me to that big goal. And after having all that, really allowing yourself to be flexible when it doesn't look exactly like that. You know, it's like a compass rather than a map. So you have the direction of where you want to go, and just creating like a system, like a workflow, like a schedule, to where you move towards that and you learn through the whole process. But when things don't go exactly how you said it, that's okay, and to just kind of go with the flow. And just there's a book that I'm reading now called Principles by Ray Dalio.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. It's a big book, but it really taught me in a
It's
lot
a big
of ways.
book. I'm intimidated by it.
It's a huge book. I haven't finished it yet.
But a lot of people I admire him. So like he's big time.
Next level.
He's next level. Yeah.
He's very like masculine brained when it comes to structure and processes and systems, and I needed that.
Yeah.
It really helped me see things in a different perspective.
Yeah.
But a lot of what he talks about is just that loop of, you know, success, of going, you know, having a goal and really going towards that goal, and failing and diagnosing why they failed, like diagnosing the problem of why you failed. And then that loop ended up, and then you learn from that.
And it kind of rolls into the next thing, and then it rolls into the next thing. So
Yeah.
you're forward, trying, maybe failure or slip up,
Yeah.
learn from it, bounce.
Yeah.
And it's like that bounce. It's like you're throwing a tennis ball.
Yeah.
And it's only the failures that are the bounces, but the bounces make you go farther.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm a visual guy too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, just allowing yourself to fail, like go for a goal and just diagnosing when the problem comes and why it came, and trying the solution the next go, and just continuing. And that's just how life works.
Yeah.
But we have to be willing to fail. You know, we can't be afraid of it.
Man, like one thing that's been helping me with 2020 is like just recommitting to, with athletics, it's so easy just to commit yourself to like every day, no matter what, I'm going to get in the gym and get better. And that kind of mentality for me it's been more challenging to apply to professional life, because it's like, which part of myself do I want to get better? Is it do I count writing emails to people all day as like getting better, or is that kind of just keeping everything afloat?
Yeah.
And so this year I've been writing every day, and it's not directly related to like anything I'm doing, but like something within me says like this kind of peels into everything, whether it's podcasting or the way I can speak and all those things. Like, so rededicating myself to a daily practice, I call it. So like every day, no matter what, if I show up and do this thing, I know that in X amount of time I'll be able to look back on a body of that and be like I got better. It's improving. It's moving me towards like the quarterly goals and all these things I have set for myself too. But the hard part is when it's like can be really fun and exciting at the start of 2020 to set up your goals, set up here's my year goal here, and then break it down by 3-month quarters, and then even months, and okay, and then it's like all right, it's time to go. And when it's day to day, nose to the pavement, I think that's when I can be like get a little apathy, I call it, like just like this is all fucking pointless anyways, like it's just a mountain of things to do, and so, but what I've been really like genuinely inspired by in this talk is it's like so many people say it, but the way you say it resonates. It's like just continually finding your why.
Yeah.
Because if I somehow could just, before I do anything, just be like, why are you doing this, man? I think that would help me a lot and like remind me that, okay, like even though I maybe don't, yesterday I was in the mood to write and it was fun and today I don't, but what's the why? And like allowing that to be like a badge of honor and like kind of humbling myself to that why as if it's like my great purpose, as big or small as it might be.
Yeah, for sure.
I've taken a shit ton from that.
It's like that's
it's
awesome,
very helpful.
man. That's awesome. There's a lot of days where I don't want to wake up early and go for a run. There are a lot of days where you don't want to do it. You don't feel like doing it, but just having tools in place, knowing that that's where the battle was won is in your mind, knowing that that is going to be a battle, just getting used to winning that battle. There was one thing that I want to get back to, but I was trying it out when I lived in Oakland like 2 years ago. I was tallying wins and losses for when I got up and went for a jog. So I would, for when I would when I would wake up, I would have like wins and losses. I would have like a chart. And if I didn't get up and run, I would mark it as a loss. And I hated seeing that. And so that was a tool for me to use where I was able to use my competitive spirit to help me to get into a habit of getting up and jogging in the morning.
I love that.
Yeah.
I could do that with my writing practice. There's something about that. I've heard like Jerry Seinfeld used to write X's if he wrote jokes that day. And he was like, dude, after a while, I just didn't want to not see an X on the board. Like, it's the worst feeling to break the chain. And now it becomes, instead of like do the thing, it's like don't break the chain.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. It's and it's different for everybody, right? Like I know that I'm competitive. So I don't like seeing wins or losses.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing losses on my chart.
For sure. That's powerful.
I remember it being like 16-0 and then like one time it was like 16-1 and I hated it.
That's just less clean.
This is not clean.
Man, tell me about what's going on with Mind Body Sports. Dude, so for people who don't know, the way we got connected was I had Mind Body Hoops. He had Mind Body Sports. I went to go try to find like a username of the same caliber of Mind Body Sports. He had it, and I was like, who is this guy? We connect. Super like-minded, man.
Yeah.
And what you're doing and have been doing with Mind Body Sports, I think, is exciting. And like, I want to plant the seeds in everybody's mind so they can be on the lookout.
Yeah, for sure. It's still super new. And I am so much more clear than I was a year ago when I really started developing it, of where I wanted to go and what direction I want to take it. And like I said before, when I think back of my upbringing and all of the tools, all of the mental, spiritual, psychological conditioning that I experienced at a young age, I know that I wouldn't have gotten to where I got to without those habits and those tools and those practices and that self-awareness that was fostered inside of me. And so, and I think back and I see through my career all the guys who weren't able to make it because of different things like their mindset, and just their habits and their practices and how they talk to themselves. And then even guys who were able to make it to the furthest level that they could dream of still feel unfulfilled and all those things. And I realized how important it was. And so that's the main passion behind Mind Body Sports, is to help athletes live a life fulfilled through their sport and beyond, by understanding the power of their mind and the power of actualization, and just giving them all the tools necessary so they too can understand that they can't be stopped. That was one of the main things that my father always told me was, they can't stop you. They can't stop you. Like when I think back on my memories as a child, running down the sideline, like it was my father who was running on the sideline with me, yelling, "They can't stop you, Jelani. They can't stop you. They can't stop you. They can't stop you." But that was training me to really believe that, and um, so I want to give that training to everyone else.
Man, I'm excited to keep sharing with my audience as Mind Body Sports grows, kind of like keeping
Yeah,
them in the loop for sure.
yeah,
For athletes that are listening, I have a lot of my audiences, like obviously athletes.
mm.
What is one piece of tangible thing they can implement right now that will kind of help them begin to like train their mind? What is a new habit they could practice?
I would say
I know there's
finding,
so many.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the biggest one for me is gratitude. Is implementing gratitude in their day to day life. Like I feel like that for me allowed all of the tough times to get translated into positive positive times. And what I would say above gratitude even is getting in touch with themselves and their inner self through meditation, just developing a meditative practice. And there are a bunch of different tools online and that help people to learn how to meditate if they haven't already. But through meditation, I was able to be self-aware and be self-reflective, and it taught me through practice how to be aware of my thoughts and how to look at it from the outside, and like not being in the boat in the wild rapid waters of your thoughts, but like actually being on the side and viewing it from there and being able to reflect from that angle.
Mm.
And that that awareness in itself has allowed me to develop all the tools necessary. Um, there's a lot of different ways, but if I had to give one particular bit of advice,
No, that's
it would be establishing gratitude in your daily habit, in your daily routine, and practicing mindfulness.
it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So my personal account is Mighty King Jenkins, Mighty King King, Jenkins
Tag it
Jenkins.
up.
That's my that's what my name actually means. Jelani Malik. He's Mighty
Oh,
King.
sick.
So yeah, Mighty King Jenkins on Instagram, Mind Body Sports on Instagram. It's I'm really like what I really plan on doing this year is putting a lot of time and energy into building that community, that online community of Mind Body Sports, um, and planning for a lot of really cool events, especially summer programs and camps coming up, and really scaling that, and just getting a chance to like meet people around the globe.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Last question. Assuming you would change nothing and assuming everything happens for a reason, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, bro. What is one piece of advice or encouragement? I know it's not too long ago for you. You're young, but what is a piece of advice or encouragement you would give 24-year-old self?
My 24-year-old
Yeah,
self,
your 24-year-old self.
I would say to embrace failure, to crave failure, to chase after failure, to seek it. I think there was a point, especially around 24, where I had made it to the NFL, and I think I really got a bit comfortable in a lot of ways, or there was a certain comfort zone aspect to it. And I feel like what I would tell that person is that just to continue to stretch that comfort, to continue to chase that failure like a baby who's learning how to walk. Just keep busting your knees open. Like eventually you'll get up and walk, but just continuing to just chase it, chase it, chase it, chase it, and that there's a gift on the other side. Yeah.
Beautiful. Appreciate you.